Okay, how's everybody? All good? Now that we are done with our midterm, starting our week 9. Today we have a few things to do. To be a bit of a busy day, well, at least for me, a busy night. So first half, we're going to be talking about CRUD. You may not be able to see that well, but that's what we're going to be talking about in our first half. We are progressing our MVC application. Some of what we're going to be doing today we will be using knowledge concepts that we have already seen, that we are already familiar with. Some will be new, but they will be very important for you to apply during assignment number 3. Okay, so again, what we're going to be talking about today, it is very, very, very important for assignment 3, which I will also be discussing today. At the end of our first half, I'll be discussing about our schedule, what we have to do in our last part of the semester. We're going to be having a decision to make. I will be bringing something for us to discuss as a group. And then in our second half, I will be going one-on-one with each one of you to have a look at assignment number 2. So I'll be asking you to demonstrate your assignment number 2 during our second part. In the meantime, you're going to be progressing with chapter 11 of the book, which is about CRUD, okay? But more about that as we go along, as we progress. Okay, so CRUD, week 9. Who can tell me what CRUD is? Update and delete. So the 4 basic operations that we usually want to be able to do with any particular model, class, entity. If we are dealing with students, well, in a student system, we need to have a way to create a new student, to read student information, to update the student information, and to delete the student as well. If we are dealing with accounts, the same thing. If we are dealing with recipes, the same thing. We're going to be developing that on our assignment 3. We're going to be creating a CRUD for recipes. Okay, so that's the reason why I say that this is very important and directly related to what you have to do for assignment 3, which we're going to be discussing a little bit later today. Okay, so CRUD. So today the idea is that we are able to create a CRUD. We're going to be doing some of that. I'll be demonstrating some of that. You will be following some of the videos and you're going to be trying yourself first. So it will be a combination of my demonstration and your practice as well. Towards the very last part of this chapter, which I'll show in a second, we'll also be able to apply client-side validation. Now, what does that mean? What is client-side validation? Who can give me your 2 cents about that? Let's break it down in smaller chunks. Client-side. What is client-side? In the browser, so in the user interface. So we are talking about the browser because our system is browser-based. So applying client-side. So something that happens in the client side. It doesn't happen in the server. Validation. So right now, if you recall the required annotation that we can add to properties of a model, what does that do for us in our application? If we say that student name is required, what happens when we do that?
In the HTML or in the?
In the model. So let's say that we go to our model and we say student name, we have a student class, and we say student name is required. So we flag that as required. We put the required annotation. What happens? You prevent
when you send the form without the information.
Yeah, so when you send the form without the information, what happens? It prevents from? Yeah, so the model is not valid. Okay, so we need to handle that. Now, the problem so far is that we are handling validation in the server side completely. But at this point in time, with what we have on the web, we should be able to handle some of that validation in the client side. We should not be required to submit the information just so the server can find out that there's something invalid and hey, don't give me that. I mean, you're missing something here. That missing something should be done in the client side. We should not have to submit the entire information to the server and then the server has to figure that out. Oh, there is something missing here. Client should be able to handle that. The browser should be able to handle that. So we have not addressed that. And this is where we're going to address. We're going to do something very simple that right away will avoid this trip back to the server just to perform validation. Right away, validation will be done in the client side. You're going to be using, any guess there, what you're going to be using here for that? HTML, okay. So HTML front-end, that's fine. But again, to do the validation, to check if a field is required or not in the client side, what do you think that we're going to be using in the client side? In the client controller, we are using in the server side. So again, client side, let's talk about technology from the client side perspective. Some sort of JavaScript. So we're going to have some sort of JavaScript here. More specifically, we're going to be using jQuery. But we're just going to be importing a few libraries, jQuery libraries, and then all of a sudden our forms will start doing client sides instead of server sides. Again, very simple. You add 3 lines of references to jQuery and nothing else.
But if it's just like field required, it's not better to use HTML required. Because I can see using jQuery when you have to match pattern.
Well, required was just one of the many types of validation. So again, you have range, you have pattern, you have an email field. So again, you have more sophisticated types of validation. So required was just the simplest one that I came to think of. Okay.
How about the ESP4 validation?
The ESP4?
The validation?
Yep.
What if we use it valid instead of the required in the model?
What if we use what?
Instead of using a required in the model,
Yes.
can you just have the forms that can we just have the ESP4 validation?
You mean the section for the validation section? That is part of the solution, but that is just the message. It's just where the message gets displayed for the validation. It's part of, but it's not the full solution. Okay? Okay. Just in case, I have Padlet as well open, so if you need to ask a question and you don't want to do verbally, you can always do there. Okay, so our old friend here, our diagram. We have not seen that diagram in a while, so last week we have not looked at that, but today we are back. Today it is back. However, when we look at our web application, today for the CRUDs, which element are we going to be focusing on today for that to happen? For the create, update, delete, Which elements? Actually, this is a tricky question. All of them. We're gonna be, it's not in one single element. We're gonna have to touch on each one of the elements here, because we have to have a router so that our create, delete, update will perform correctly. We'll call the correct controller, the correct actions. In the controller, we're gonna be implementing those actions: delete, update, create. We need to use the model to do what? Controller needs to use the model to perform what? To do the, model is about what? If we talk about, data, it's about, our model is about the database. It's about changing the database or connecting to a database. So you're going to be interacting with the model to be able to perform the delete, perform the update, perform the create. So you're going to be interacting with the model. Now, this does not happen in isolation. A user is looking at a page and it's clicking a button, it's clicking things, it's submitting. So we definitely need a view to be able to do that, to be able to perform those operations, okay? So all elements are going to be required for us to create our CRUDs, okay? All of them. Okay, today is about chapter 11. Chapter 11 is about creating this backend administration of the sports store. You're going to be able to create a product, update a product, delete a product. Okay, so again, we're going to be focused on chapter 11 and the videos that follow that as well. Talking about videos, I have uploaded the PDF version of this PowerPoint. That link over there is active in your PDF. So if you click there, you're going to see the playlist for chapter 11. We're going to be using that quite a lot, very much in the second half of the class, because as I go through the demonstrations, the rest of you will be progressing on that playlist. But in the first half, we're going to be working through a few things together here. Okay, CRUD again. So, as you said, create, read, update, and delete. Okay? Now, I also like to think that to do those basic operations, we also need a place that we can visualize all students, visualize all products, visualize all accounts, a list. So we also need to be able to list our entities, not only to create them, not only to read them, to update them, to delete them, but to list them. Okay? I'll show that next year. Let's have a look at this interface. So let's go through it. Create. Where in that interface are we creating a new, in this case here we're talking about countries. Countries with population and names and codes. Where are we creating a new record, a new entry? So we have add new record here, okay? What I'm going to show you is a few examples of very common admin interfaces that you can, will, should develop, should get familiarized with those basic operations. So here, we can add a new record. So create, read. Where are we reading here? When we click on details, where else? Edit as well, because when you click on edit, most likely a form will come up that will have the information of that country, in this case, loaded, so you can perform changes. Now, why is that we have details and delete as two separate actions here? Why do we have them separately? That's a good point. It is not editable. Then how is that useful? Or why is that useful to have this distinction between detail and edit? Detail is not editable. That's great. Why is that?
Insert the detail to another user you don't want them to be able to edit.
That's it. So when we apply security to our system, maybe some users will be able to see the full details of our records and not edit. But some other users may be able to see the details, but also to edit the details. So that's the reason why it's very common that you have edits and you have details. They can serve to be used by different levels of authorization of users, okay? Today, we are not worried about who has access to what. We are not worried about security. We're going to develop this CRUD without worrying about, oh, is the user logged in? Oh, where is the user going to be able to put a username and password? We don't care about that right now. We're going to worry about that for next week, but not today. Today is about basic operations on our models, okay? So, create, read, update. Where are you going to update here? In the edit. So edit will allow us to update. And then we have the delete, which we have it right here. Okay? Let me ask you this. Let's think about the two types of actions that we have. We have, and actually we have a few more, but for the sake of this course, we are focused on those two actions. We have a get and a post. When I click add new records, am I using a get or a post?
Because you're calling a new page.
We are still, when I click this button, we are still using a get because we are not saving yet. We are not creating the record yet. We are just doing what? When we click here. We're just bringing the form. So we're just getting the form. We're not saving information yet. However, when we go to this page that has a form that asks for the country name and all the information, when we click the submit button, which action are we going to be using there?
Post.
We're going to be posting information. So we're going to be using a post. So again, just clicking on a button, it's just a simple get. However, when you click a submit button and we send information back to the server, we are doing a post. Again, details. If we click there, post or get. If we click details. Yes, we are just navigating to the details of that particular record there. So we have a get here. Same thing here, edit. What are we having? Get or post? A get again, because we are just loading the form with the information. However, if we change the continent, the country name, if we perform any change in that form and we click submit, we are using a post at a point, okay? How about delete? Delete, now we're going to be, if we click it and this record disappears, we're going to be using a, well, we could use a delete, but, and I'll show, actually I'll be mentioning about that in a second. We're going to be using a regular post because actually the delete actions, not only delete, but the delete inputs, they are being phased out from the regular HTML5 definition. So we are no longer using, we are just pretty much using just get and post. And when we need to make changes, like even if it's a delete, we are performing that via a post method. Another one here. Doing the same, kind of the same thing, but with a slightly different layout. Where are we creating a new record here? I mean, we are talking about users here. So where are we creating a new user?
Join. Or whatever that says in the top right hand corner.
Yep, user here. So we have a user. So plus a user. So we add a user there. And then we have, so create, reads. We have an edit button here. In this case here, in this interface, we don't have a detail view, but we have an edit view, okay? So again, a similar interface, but with a different layout. Okay, so we have the read, we have the delete here, we have some paging here as well. So again, this is the type of thing that in the industry you're going to be doing quite a lot. Every system that you're going to be working with, if you are developing, will have a back-end admin interface. Usually when we refer to systems, we usually have two sides of a system. Well, I can say many sides potentially, because each user will have a different view of that system. Usually there is a very basic user level that cannot see much, but then we usually have an administration sides, where you can come in and you can, let's say in the sports store, you can log in and you can create more products, you can change products, you can remove products, you can authorize orders to be shipped. So keep that in mind, that usually we have, and I'm not talking about front ends and back end server, I'm talking about regular user and administrator user, okay? Administration of our system. Again, just another example. Third and last one here. Again, create new user. We can filter. We're gonna be doing some of that in our projects. Okay. Again, more about that later on today. And here we have the records, we have the table, and then we have delete, we have edit, and we have details here. Again, you could have opted to have details instead of being a link like this. It could be the link from the title of the, and this is movies, yeah, from the title of the movie here, okay? But again, this is what is expected when we are talking about, let's implement a CRUD. CRUD, you have to have a list. CRUD, you need to be able to create, update, delete, and what am I missing here? And read, actually, R is from read. Read, yeah. Okay. Any questions? Anything?
Host is supposed to be sending data to the server, so I understand why you're using that. But in the case of a list, you're reserving the page anyway, right? So why wouldn't you just use a get method, under that get method, delete it from your repository and pull the repository back? Is it just because you're sending data saying delete this from the repository that you're using a post? Like, is it a syntactic thing, or is it a...
It's just that, actually, you could potentially delete and update via gets as well. You could do that via gets, but from a standard perspective, I mean, what were they planned to do about them? Get was just about get information, not change. So if you make a change when you are getting, you are breaking some fundamental rules. I would say rules, I would say conventions. Okay. It's about convention, really. Okay. Great, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open Sports Store. I'm going to open the solution as it is at the end of chapter 11. I want to run that and show you what is it that you're going to be working today towards, which is this interface here for the products. So again, I want to show you the final product so we know what we are putting together to build to get there, okay? Okay, so the source code here is a source code as of at the very end of chapter 11. By the end of today, all the source codes will be available for you to download and use as a reference point. Okay, so this is the front end as you'd have it at the end of chapter 10. So chapter 10, we are able to add to carts, we are able to remove from cart, we are able to check out the products. So that's the end of chapter 10. Chapter 11 is about creating the CRUDs to be able to manage products. Chapter 12 is about applying security to the project, okay? So this week is about the CRUDs, and next week is about security. Okay, so we just need to go to admin/index, and here's what we can see. So you can see the list of products, okay? And from here, I'm able to make updates. As you can see, change has been done. I'm able also to delete, but I'm not going to delete any of those. I'm going to create a new product so I can delete it. And here we have. Now, don't worry about in case this number here goes wildly crazy, because we are using local DB. Local DB, sometimes the auto increment thing, it goes a bit crazy. Maybe it's a bug in this version of local DB, but if you see this kind of strange behavior here, well, one thing is that when you delete a record, this number, which is generated by the database, is no longer available. So the next record becomes the next number. Again, when you delete, it's gone. Actually, let me do this here. I'm going to delete the database and get it recreated. So I'm just going to go to SQL Server Explorer, LocalDB. I'm going to delete this one here. And I'm going to run it again. So I'm just make sure that I'm rebuilding the database and see if that little issue with the ID is gone. But again, that issue is not about our code, it's really about the database, the local database, LocalDB. Okay, so it has recreated. So let's give this a try again. Okay, so now it's behaving properly. But now, if I delete this record, and if I add a new one, see, now it becomes 11. So when we delete from an auto-incremented field, it no longer comes back to the same number that you had before. It keeps moving forward. It increments not by the count of the IDs, but by some internal controls that the database has. So again, this is a very standard behavior. You can find this in Oracle, SQL Server, in MySQL as well. So, and again, we can delete this, and that's it. That's what you're going to be working towards this interface today. Okay? Any questions? Okay, so to get us started, so we're gonna skip directly to part 3 of this sequence here, which will guide you to create a new controller. So the first task here for this part 3 will be to create a new controller. The video is 4 minutes. I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. If you get done in less than that, that's fine. You can move to part 4, but again, in 10 minutes, we stop, and then I'll do some demonstration here. But the instructions are, download this from eCentennial and watch this part 3 video here. One quick note, this links to the playlist. So in the playlist, when I say part 3, I mean the title of the video. not the order of the video here. So we have part 1, 2.1, 2.2, part 3. So this is the one that I would like you to have a look. Okay? Part 4, sorry, video number 4, which is called part 3, creating a CRUD controller. Okay? So let's have a look at that. And again, very simple controller. You have enough information at this point to be able to create your own controller. And then I'll be demonstrating the next 2 videos here. So just to recap, this is, oh, and by the way, you can download that from Centennial if you go to Contents, Source Codes, and then Sports Store Chapter 11, and you can download this one here, this source codes. You can download this one here. Part 2.2, download it and get the controller created. Just going to take a quick attendance here. Akil, Ashlyn, Brian, Dion Lee, Duke Tang, Harshil, Imran, I think it's there. Irvin, yep, Jane, January, Pluto, Jordan, June Lee, Kengo, Kool-Aid, Li Peng, Matthew, Milan, Min Young, Sergio, Santho, Sergio, Simon, Tanai, Tanvi, Tiago, To N, To Think, Wei Yang, Chen, Ian Hao Fan, Ipen, Yon Seop Lee, Zidane, yes, I got it. Okay. So, again, hopefully that was a very simple one, just the controller. So, what you should have in the end now is this controller here, the admin controller with a constructor and, sorry, I opened the wrong one. Yes, I opened the wrong one. So you should have the constructor with the index. Now, let's just recap a few things because we have looked at databases quite a few weeks ago, so I don't expect you to have those concepts and things in mind right away. So we need to do a bit of a refreshing in the database stuff that we have seen before. So we have a repository here in our controller to be able to connect with the model, with the database. So here is our repository, our product repository. Now, we are using here an interface, but we cannot, this interface has no implementation. So at some point, we need to get a concrete class to be set, to be instantiated, and become our repository, which happens right here. So when we say repository equals to repo, right now, right after this line, what type will repository become? I mean, what will it become after this line runs? Entity framework. So let's have a look at our models here. So it will become the entity framework EF product repository. But again, let's try to reconnect with what we saw in the database. Here we have a reference to iProduct repository. Where is it that we are making the connection between iProduct repository and EF product repository? Where is that connection happening? In the startup, so let's have a look at the startup. So if we scroll down, we can see this line here, okay? Which really means that anytime you need an iProduct repository, give to the application an entity framework product repository. This is again, what is that called? What is this strategy called? Again, that's one of the things that I said. If there's one thing that you need to leave this course knowing, is what this is. So what is that? Dependency injection. So this is dependency injection. The admin controller depends on iProduct repository, but dynamically it gets replaced by the entity framework product repository. So we are in a way we are injecting the dependency right here dynamically. So they become dependent just because of this single line of code. Okay? So again, easily we can change this repository to any other repository that we may implement in the future. So again, just want to quick recap that, because from now on, to be quite honest, forget about in-memory repositories. We're done with that. Actually, the only reason why we're not completely done is because I still have to go through assignment number 2 today. But after today, we are done with in-memory stuff. Now it's all database driven. From now to the end of the course, it's all database. We are not dealing anymore with lists, with fake repositories. We're dealing with real repositories. Okay? Questions? Okay, let's do this. Let's go for 5 minutes. We come back, and I'll be doing some demonstration here. Okay? 5 minutes.
So, sir,
Yes.
how can we deploy the local database?
Deploy?
If we deploy the web application?
We don't deploy local database. We don't deploy them. So we would have to run the migration scripts at the destination and recreate the database.
Yeah, so what I mean is like, we use a local, I still don't understand what is a local database.
Database? Okay, so let me see how.
Because normally if we store the data, we store the data in the cloud.
Okay, so here's the thing. You store the data somewhere. So you're talking about clouds. Cloud has an address. So that address, it will create somewhere else, maybe an Azure or whatever it is.
Yeah.
In our case, we are just running, our database is running in our, LocalDB is a small version of a database available from SQL Server. So available in Visual Studio. It's a smaller version of SQL Server available together with Visual Studio. It's a database, it's a development database.
But if we deploy the web application?
Okay, so we're gonna have not next week, but the week after, we're gonna be talking about deployment. We're gonna be talking about deployment,
Okay.
live deployment. So again, in 2 weeks, we're going to be, the topic of the day will be deployment. So we're going to be performing a deployment. In our case, we're going to be doing that to Azure.
Ah, okay.
Okay?
Okay. Okay. Can I ask your help?
Sure.
Because I made a personal website.
Okay.
So I sent you the link. So
Okay.
maybe you can give
Of
me
course.
some comments about that.
Of course, I'll do that.
Okay, thank
Okay, no problem.
Precisa ainda fazer tudo. Você faz o pré, adiciona o condicional, entra no executor, abre o modelo, executa ele, bate o modelo, faz o shutdown, aí você faz aí isso se esse network service exterminate. Então, todos esses processos terminou. Beleza. Aí, ele continua. Aí ele vai perguntar, você quer continuar? Não. Aí eu usei o char, shield aqui, ó. Aí eu coloquei dentro do char, eu fiz o share.
Até amanhã eu vou ver outras coisas.
Se você não for pensar, não, já não mudou nada. Calma, só para aqui. Só vou usar aqui. Eu não vou usar no aí eu sou
Eu acho que isso é exatamente a parte do código que tem no final do
então, mas é o shutdown.
é algo
Mas lá no meu.
Okay, so let's carry on. Here, so I have a little demonstration to do here. So far, you have just put together this controller, a very simple one. What I'll be talking about is the equivalent of videos 4 and 5. So what would be the next natural step by looking at this code? What would you implement next here? So how about to implement this guy here? How about to implement the list of products? Okay? Let's do that. To do that, what is the, again, next step here? We have enough knowledge at this point to keep going, to keep moving forward. So what's next to implement that? Creating the view. Where? In the view folder, but more specifically, Where in the view folder? We have to create a folder called admin. Great, yep, so let's do that. So add folder. Again, now you see, we are just applying what we know already, but in a more sophisticated, in a more complex application, okay? So admin. Now, inside admin, we're gonna be creating an index view. So new item, I'll just go through new item, razor view, again, not razor page, razor view, called index. I'm gonna add, and then I'm going to delete everything that is there. And let's put this together. So first question is, are we having a model linked to this view? Yep. Okay, so at model, what is the model? Okay, so let's have a look here. We are sending, what is it that we're sending to this view? Products. But now, again, what is our model here in our index view? Product. It's a list. So how about we use some other structure, another structure that we are using to model lists, to model collections. We are using let's use an enumerable here, okay? So whenever you are linking the model of a view that has a collection, you can just use enumerable. You're going to be doing fine here. So this will be an enumerable of products. Okay, great. Then what? What's next? How about we define the layout? Yeah, so remember that I was talking at the beginning of the class that system in general, they have a view, a front-end layout, a front-end general navigation, and a back-end admin navigation. In this case, here's what we have. Look at this. In the shared, we have an admin layout and a layout. So we have this layout here, this one, to be used for the front ends of the system, like when you are navigating the products, you are adding to the shopping cart, you are removing from the shopping cart. That view has a layout. This is the layout of that front-end view. Now, we are dealing with the admin sides of our system. So, admin sides of system, usually they are simpler, more straightforward. They don't have a lot of bells and whistles there. So, in this case, we have a new layout. We have another layout file to be used there. So how do I say that this index view uses the admin layout? How do I say that? What's that? How am I going to say that? How do I specify that? So I'm going to open a code block here, a Razor code block, and I'm going to say what? How do I set the layout? So layout equals to, and then I'm going to say underscore admin layout. In our admin layout, it also has a title, so I'm going to set this title here as well. So I'm going to say title equals to all products. Okay, so this is the basic structure of our list. So what now? Again, anytime that we are dealing with a list in a view, we need to do what? To make an output of that. What is it that we need to do? We need to use a table structure. Yep. Great. That's fine. So let's put that. Yep. We have to use a for each. But for our table, we're going to have a header, and we're going to have the actual rows of data. So in terms of what we're going to be displaying, we're going to display something like, let's say, TR, name, and maybe price. I'm not going to do too much here yet because I'll be copying this part here. By the way, I mean, this code will be available, as I said, very shortly by the end of the class for you as well. Again, I'll be copying this. But what I'm looking, actually, I'm doing this wrong. This says TR is for the line, and then TD. And then that's the name. And then that's TD again. Yeah. I mean, to make it very precise, this should be a TH. Table heads. Okay? And this would be a TR. And this would be the closing of that. And now, we're going to get to our what? We're going to iterate through our collection by using which structure? Again, what is the structure that we're going to be using to go through the list? A for each. So I'm going to use a for each. Never get this right. Okay, for each what?
Var.
I can use a var. So for each var P as product in model. So our model, again, is a collection of products. And then I'm going to open curly braces, close it. And I'm going to add a bunch of lines here. I'm going to say TD. And then another TD here. And I'm going to just say at p dot name, and then at p dot price, and it goes like that. And if I want to format, I can say to string, and I can say C, so I can format this as currency. Okay, are we done with the list here? The basic list, we are done here. However, we can make this list fancier, we can add more fields, we can add bootstrap classes to make it look better, to make it look more appealing. So I'm going to do a bit of copy and paste here. So I'm going to go to index, and I'm just going to use this part here for the header. So what I'm doing here is just using a bunch of classes from Bootstrap. I'm not going to go to each one of those classes with you. This is, again, just using Bootstrap here. Also, the headers, I'm just aligning the text in the header to the right, to the left is the default, and to the center, okay? So just making some alignments there, that's it. Now, looping through the products, I'm gonna just put this in place. In my example, it's called item, so I'm gonna replace P for item just to keep consistent with the code that I'm copying. Now, here's the thing. Look at this. We have ID, and then we have product ID in the loop. We have name, we have the product name, and we have price. But we have this fourth column called actions. in this column actions, what we have is, let's look at our PowerPoint. See, that's what we have. We have edit and we have delete. So in our fourth column, we're going to have to display these two options. So the user can delete or edit a product. Okay? So how are we going to do that? So let's start with the edit first. Let's do this. Let me first ask you this. Edit, the edit option. The edit option, is this a post or a get? It's a get because we're going to click this edit option and it will bring a separate view. It will bring a detailed view of that product. Sorry, it will bring a form that will load the product information. So you can make change. So again, this edit is just a get. However, delete, we're going to be clicking delete and deleting that record, that entry right away. So delete will be a post. Let's see how we can accomplish that. Okay? That's what we're going to do next. So let's start, just to start simple, let's start with the edit here. So which HTML tag should we use to create our edit? Button, okay? Any other suggestions? Yeah, so here's the thing. It looks like a button, but actually this edit here is really a link. Because if we create as a button, we are saying that we're going to be submitting information back. We're not going to be using this, we're going to be having this as a button. It's just a link. Now, it's a link that is using some bootstrap classes to make it look like a button. It looks like a button, it behaves like a button, but it's really just a link. Both of them, you see, they look, of course, different colors, but they look the same. But again, one is a button, but the other one is just a link. Okay? So, we're going to be using a link here. So I'm going to go A what? So let's do an ASP action. We don't have the action yet. However, let's say that the action should be called edit. Okay? So I'm going to say edit what? I can say controller. Now, actually, controller would be optional here because we are inside of the admin control already. So if there is an ASP action without ASP controller, it means that it's using the same controller. So yes, we can do controller, we can say admin. However, again, in a case like that, because the index view and the edit view are both inside the same controller, this becomes optional. But if you want more clarity, we can keep it there, just to make it more, I would say, transparent here. Let's close this, let's call this edit. Let's look at this. And again, what's next? What we're going to do next? Not yet, not yet. But remember that some of you have a little bit, some difficulties creating when you click on a recipe, you load the details of that recipe. You have to get the ID, you have to get that stuff over. So we're going to have to do something similar to that here as well. I would ask you, if you click edit, which product are you clicking on? How do you define that here? The product. You need a route. Okay? So we're going to do what here? ASP-routes. And here is the magic with the ASP-routes. it's a dynamic property. You can say dash, whatever you put here has to match what?
Whatever parameter it is on the receiving method.
On the receiving method, on the receiving action. What is the action here? So when we create this edit, it will have to have a parameter with the same name as this little part here.
It matters if it's, in this case, sensitive.
No, it's not. It is not. Okay? Because this becomes part of the URL, and URLs are not case sensitive.
What is
Okay.
the ASP route all data? Does that like fire the entire model back, or like
To be-
the drop down?
Let me see here. To be quite honest, I don't know. SP routes or data route. I don't know. I let me see here. Additional parameters for the route. I can have a look, but I really don't know. Okay. Okay. So let's put a more appropriate name here. Let's call this product ID. And then it's equals to what? What should I put here inside?
The item ID.
So at item, and we need to put at there, then product ID. And that is how you do view details. You are able to put the product ID, the recipe ID in the URL. Okay? This becomes part of the URL. Now, here's the thing. Because we don't have, if we have a look at our rules in the startup, see, we don't have any rule here that has a parameter called product ID. So product ID, when this runs, how is this going to display in the URL? No. Knowing that we have action edits, controller is admin, and we have this parameter. How will this look like in the URL? So slash admin slash edit. Okay, so here's the thing. We don't have any rule that talks about something called product ID. We don't have that. So what will happen is that because there is no matching rule, what will happen is that at the end of slash edit, it will come up as question mark product ID equals to 0, 1, 2, 3. So the URL is no longer friendly. It's no longer, let's put it this way, beautiful. It's no longer SEO friendly. It will be using the equal sign. It will be using the question mark. So you're going to see that type of error. If, I'm quite sure that if we would call this ID, then it would match this rule. And then we would have something like slash admin slash edit slash 1, 2, 3. Because this, the name ID, would match there. Again, we can give it a try on that, but I just want, this is just a side note. It's not very, at least not very important at this point in time. Okay? The most important thing here is really understand how you can get and build a URL that goes to one particular entry, one particular recipe, one particular product, one particular whatever it is that you are coding in your system, okay? So that's edit. Now, we have delete, okay? But delete is not a get, it's a post, okay? So which structure, which HTML structure are we going to use to perform a post? Which HTML tag are we going to use to do that? A form. We're going to use a form. See, we cannot do the same thing here for delete. Because, again, we're talking about this is a get. We need to do a post, okay? So link like this is not for posts. A link is just a get. It's getting something there. So you should not use a get to perform a change action in the back end of your system. So as much as you could use a link, but don't use gets to perform changes to the database. Don't do that. Okay? Goes against the basic, fabric of HTTP, HTML. Okay? So again, let's use a post. Now, to use a post, we're going to have to put a form here somewhere. Okay? Follow me, or did I lose you?
So we need to change the product ID to ID, right?
No, we don't. As long as if we keep this product ID, as long as we have in our methods, the edit methods, as long as it's called product ID as well, the only caveat is that the URL will not be a beautiful URL. It will say something like question mark, product ID equals to 1, 2, 3, whatever the number is. If we make it just ID, it would look nicer, but it would behave the same way. Again, I don't want to overcomplicate too much at this point. We can have a look at examples of that later on, but either product ID or ID, they will both work as long as it matches the parameter in our edits. Okay? We're going to get there in a second. Let's just move on here with our delete. Okay? So for our delete, we're going to do this. We can do a form tag which has an action. What is the action here? Well, we don't have it yet, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to call it delete. The methods will be a post, and as I said before, those other methods like delete and put, they are pretty much not used anymore. So they are being discontinued. So again, we should not be using them. We can just use a post in this case here. And then we're gonna put something here inside our form. So we have our form. Then what? What's next? What would you put next here inside the form? Let's put the button. So let's say button type, but it's submit, and I'm going to say delete. Okay? Now here's the question. Is this enough? What are we missing there? We are missing? It's close to that. We are missing something there. What is the piece of information that we are missing in that form? Some sort of parameter. Which parameter?
To indicate it's that one.
To indicate that it's that product, correct? Now, the question is, how do you do that? Any suggestions there?
You can create an invisible field that holds the ID.
That's about it. That's it. So with what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a hidden field. It's an input. It's the type is a hidden field. Because here's the thing. I don't want to show the ID here of the product anymore. That's the reason why we are making it hidden. It's there, but it's not visible to the end user. So we're just saying hidden. Now, it has two properties that we have to fill out. It has a name and it has a value. So the name, what is the name that we're going to give to this input? Let's make it consistent. How about we call it product ID? It doesn't have to, because those are two different actions. Here is the edit, here's the delete, okay? So they are not related to each other, okay? But this hidden field becomes the input parameter of the delete action. So there are two ways that you can create parameters in your actions coming from a form or from a view. You can create parameters via the URL, like this, or you can create parameters in your actions via fields in your form. Okay? So I'm gonna do this right here. I'm gonna say, let's say product ID, and the value will be at item dot product ID.
How come you don't use just ASP4 product ID?
Okay. Anyone would try to answer that? How come we are not using just ASP4, ASP-4 here? Just to remind you, ASP-4. How come we are not using that?
Is it assigned only?
Yes, before you have to use it with a label to relate the label to the.
It can be used for label, but here's the key information is this. ASP4 links to the model. It goes to the model to figure out which field is that one. However, our model is not one product. Our model is a list of products here. So
So you can't call it to that specific product.
we cannot, because again, when you use ASP4, we are linking this form inputs to a property of this model. But this model is not one product. This model is a collection of products. And inside our loop, the way we can retrieve the product ID is by doing this. Again, ASP4 is tied to the model, okay? And so, again, that's why we cannot use it. Okay, so I think that if we run this, let's give it a try. What is that? That's fine, that's fine. That will be created next. I just want to see if I can see them, there, and if the action will, of course, we're going to try to delete, but nothing will happen here. Actually, I'm getting an error here because of IIS. Let me close this one here. Actually, okay, so if I say /admin index, see, I can see them. I did not style this yet. We're going to do that in a second. But you see, we have edit. Look at the URLs. Of course, it's not showing anything because we did not implement our edit yet. But look at the URL. Look at the URL of the next one. And then you're going to see question mark, product ID equals to the ID of the product. And then we have the button there. Now, let's just put a little bit of styling here so we can make them look slightly better. And we're going to do one more fix, and then we're going to move on. and this. So I'm just going to fix the visuals of that. So for the delete, I'm going to choose this class here. So I'm going to put this, again, just some bootstrap classes here for the delete, and we have some classes for the edit as well to make it look like a button, not like a link. So I'm going to save this, and if I refresh, they should look slightly better. Okay, so you can see that they're looking better, but they are one below the other one. So we're going to do a little adjustment here. Look, our code here. See, edit does not have to be inside the form. However, I'm going to move edit inside the form just so it can look in the, it can be sitting in the same line, just from a visual standpoint. But again, edits and deletes, they are independent from each other. Okay, very important that. So, but I'm gonna just move it inside. Just so it can look a little bit better. Okay, so now we can see side by side. But again, it was just because of, from a visual standpoint, it makes more sense. Okay, so two things. We're going to move on now. I have a few things to mention about our schedule. Our next half of the class, again, I'll be going one-on-one with you. In our 10 minutes break, well, after you come from the break, download assignment 2 to your workstations. So as I go through one by one, it's already loaded. You don't need to be running it. It can just be loaded in Visual Studio. But don't wait for me to come by, and then you're going to download, and then you're going to open things up. Okay, so that's one thing. While I go one-on-one with all of you, the rest of you will be going through the other videos. So we have covered so far up to video. Oh, there's a question here. Okay, if you want to finish, why is it? Why is it what? Just give me a little bit more there. Because I say so. Okay, so I'm going to make available part. Let me see, I just went through part 4 and 5. So I'm going to make available 3. Let me see here, what did I make available here? Actually, yeah, okay, 3 and 4. Sorry, 4 and 5. Actually, I'm gonna keep it up to here. Let's see. Yeah, so we went through this. I did this. We did not create this edit action. So I'm gonna just keep it up to part 4. So what you're gonna do? Let me see here. You can just download up to part 5 and then just go through the videos. Just go one by one. Again, you're going to be using that for assignment 3. Use this time well to practice this because you need that knowledge for assignment 3, which we're going to be discussing in a second. Okay? So again, as I go through assignment 2, you progress with the rest of the videos on the playlist, starting from this one here, and keep moving forward. If you want to, that's fine. That's fine. You can start from anyone that you find relevant. That's okay. Again, this is not bonus worth, but it's important that you go through this because you're going to be creating your own CRUD very shortly. Okay, so now here are a few topics that we need to discuss. Our schedule. So I'm going to open our schedule here so we know what to expect until the end of our course. Okay, So we are here discussing our CRUDs. Today I'll be handing out assignment 3. Okay, I'll be explaining assignment 3. Then next week we will be talking about security, and I'll be handing out projects. So the project will be handed out next week. Then in the third week we're going to be talking about deployment. In the fourth week, identity framework. Then the second last week we're going to have our test 1, and we're gonna talk about this in a second. So second last week, test 1, and the very last week we're gonna have the project demonstration and project delivery. So in terms of content, we have 4 weeks, including today, to cover more content here. Now, as you can see, quite a very tight schedule to do assignment 3, assignment 4, and a project. So I have a suggestion to give here, is that assignment 4, as well as all assignments, they are worth 10% each. Project is worth 20%. So how about we get rid of assignment 4, get rid of that, but move that 10% and allocate that inside the project. So instead of the project being worth 20%, the project becomes worth 30%. Okay? What is the intention here? To reduce the workload, really. Because I really think that 3 assignments, and 1 is a group assignment, in 6 weeks is quite a lot, you know, and considering what the other course that you have to deal with. So I want to put this up for voting. You decide. Okay? And here's the link for the vote. Actually, questions? Sorry.
Split the assignment 4 to other 3 assignments not in the project.
I didn't get it. So, say it again.
Like, you are adding the project 30%. Instead of that, if we can add assignment 1, 2, 3, 12.5% each, then I think it will be better. Like 30% in one shot.
Yeah. So spread the points throughout the other assignments.
Assignment 4, spreading the points to 3 assignments, like 2.5 or 3% each or 3.5% each. Then the project will be 20%. Like 30%, I feel like a little bit.
So instead of 20, 30%, you feel too much of that one? Is it?
So like assignment 1, 2, 3, if we get 12%, 13% each or 15% each, like assignment 2 and 3, 15%, then also the 10% is treated there, right?
Okay, so it's kind of a 3.33 for each one?
No, like you can do the 3 and 4, 2 and 3, 15%, 15%.
So assignment 1 is for.
No, it's not. Okay. So let me just hold on a second. Assignment 4 is not 30%.
No, I'm telling that assignment 4 has the 10%.
Yes.
So you are adding it in the project.
Yes.
I don't know how the project goes. So you are telling the project will be 30%.
Yeah.
Instead of that, I'm suggesting like if we can get like assignment 1, 2, and 3, a little bit more percentage, splitting that assignment 4 there.
Okay, so like a third.
Yes.
Like 3.3 and 3.3, 3.3.
Or like assignment 2 and 3, 15%, 15% each. So also like, the 10% is not there.
Given that assignment 1 has already, it has already been graded.
Yeah, so my concern is that we are retrofitting points to something that already happened.
No, assignment 1 for
No, but assignment 2 has already happened.
So what if instead of that, instead of putting it all into the project, you redistribute it so we have 5 in assignment 3 then, which we haven't done. We've already done assignment 3, so you don't want to retrofit any points,
Okay.
understandably. So what if we do 5
Into assignment
project, or sorry, assignment 3.
Yeah.
3.
And then, so if project's 25, assignment 3 is,
Got it, 15. So assignment 3 becomes 15 and project becomes 25.
yeah, that way you're not getting added free points and we're not
Mhm.
putting everything into the project.
Okay, Okay, I like that. I like that. So the voting that I have here, the wording there, it's really towards, what I proposed, but then I'm just going to reword that to be what you just suggested here. Does that make sense? So become 15 for assignment 3, and then 25 for the projects. Okay? Great. So but again, I'll put that for voting because the vocal ones are speaking, but we have quiet ones that are not speaking, that they may have a different idea. Okay, so give me 1 second here. So.
Mas ele já pulou, mas ele não tá.
Yep. Okay, no problem.
Ele pega o meu thread e pega os threads do que ele está criando. Faz uma bagunça, mistura tudo. Aí isso não vai precisar de mas como você vai fazer o aro? Como você vai pegar aqui na pergunta? Você está vendo uma pergunta? E vai pôr uma variável. Você vai transformar numa thread, você vai criar uma classe então. Você vai criar uma classe. E você vai pegar a resposta da variável e inserir no main. Não, é fácil. Eu vou conversar com você. Tá enrolado. Ele não ensinou isso aí, ó. Ele pulou do livro. Você sabe que tem um livro, né? Ele lá fala desse. Não, aquele while para funcionar se for para depois que teve no nosso assignment. Porque no livro é simples, é só explicar.
Okay, so here's the code near pods. Jump to near pod there, and you're gonna see this codes. You're gonna enter this code to do the voting. So either you keep it or as is, or move 5% to assignment 3 and 5% to projects. You have to select and click submit, okay? Because otherwise it doesn't compute. Okay, again, there's just one person that has not voted yet, at least according to what I see here. Okay. Okay, I think that we have enough here. So massively remove it and move it to those points there. Okay, great. That's awesome. Unanimous. That's the first one. That's the first voting that has unanimous. Okay, great. So it's done. Done deal. Awesome. Let's move forward here. Okay, so that's about scheduling. We did this. Assignment 3, I want to briefly talk about that. So the due date of assignment 3 is in the week of the 25 of November. So Tuesday 26. So it will be Tuesday 26 at night, okay? So you're gonna have almost 3 weeks. You're gonna have 2 weeks and 6 days to get that done, to get assignment 3 done. And I'm gonna explain in a second what is that about, okay? So again, 3 weeks. It's not in the day of the class, okay? It's the day before the class. So in the day of the class, we can go through assignment 3 together as we're gonna be doing with assignment 2 right now, okay? Again, we have very little time left and we need to use our time well here. The folder is already open, the date is there, and if you go to Centennial under assignments, you're gonna see assignment 3 over there. I'm just gonna go through it briefly. So there's the deadline. So it's 2 weeks and 6 days from today. And here are the details. So basically, you're gonna do one thing is convert the in-memory storage to a database storage. So you're gonna be doing a conversion of that, for assignments from assignment 2. So use your code base from assignment 2 and convert instead of storing in memory, you're gonna store in the database. So create a class to support Entity Framework and to implement your repository interface. Again, we're gonna be using here an iRepository. You're going to be using an Entity Framework repository. You're going to be doing something very similar to the Sports Store. So use the Sports Store as your reference point, okay? In the models folder, create a seed data. Again, the same way that we have seed data for the Sports Store, you're going to have seed data here for our recipe, okay? To populate the database with initial data, add code to run, include this data, add the code to run, include this data if the database is empty. Yeah, so you're gonna test if the database is empty. If it is, you run. If it's not, you skip it. Again, you have that done in the seed data of Sports Store. Just look at that and do something similar. That's it. Generate the migration scripts to implement your database. So again, you're gonna be using the command line to generate the migration scripts, and then seed data can take care of creating the database for you, okay? Update the recipe page list, so clicking in a recipe will bring, of course, that recipe, the recipe view, so you load the recipe information. Again, similar to what you have now, but instead of loading from memory, you're gonna load from the database. Implement a CRUD, so what we went through initially now, update, create, delete. You're going to be creating here for a recipe. You're going to be doing that. You can use in your view that lists the recipe. At the end of each recipe, you can have a button that says delete, another one that says edit. You can do it just right there. Just in your list, you can do it. Now, you're going to have to create you have already an add recipe view. You just have to enhance that to be able to update as well. Because right now it's just adding. You have to handle the updating parts of the equation here. And again, that's the reason why follow the videos for the rest of this chapter because it's all there. It's all there. And again, I'm here to answer questions as you go along if you get stuck, okay? And that's it. That's about it. Assignment 3. As you get more familiarized with what's here, if you have questions, let me know. If you have questions right now, you can let me know as well. And check if there's anything there. No? Why is it? That's it. That's life. Any questions?
What does it mean? It's a call to run includes this data if the database is empty.
This? Well, if you look at the seed data of Sports Store, there is an if statement that says if there is any data, don't run this anymore. Because if there is data already, and if you keep running, it keeps adding more data to the database. So every time you run, it's going to add more data? No, just add data. The first time you run, you check, is there data in the database? If yes, great, skip it. If there's no data, then you run your scripts to create your seed data. Okay? Again, this is implemented just like that.
So this is the first time?
Yes. Yes, just the first time. But again, how do you know that it's the first time? Well, you check if the database is empty or not. If it's empty, it's the first time. Okay? Okay, and I think that there is one thing before we go to our break here. Okay, so I'm also a student. I'm a student of teaching and learning. Okay, so there's a program here at Centennial for instructors to further our careers. And I'm a student there. As part of the course that I'm taking there, it's a research course. I have to come up with a question that will improve my teaching practice. Okay, so this is my question. And I have to come up with data to show or to deny that this is useful. So my question is that I'm working through the course is how can watching video demonstrations prior to class increase students' understanding of a new topic? Again, we are doing this quite a lot here, but I decided to use that as my question. So why you care about that? Here's the thing. We're not going to be doing anything too different, but we're going to be doing a few things a little bit different from our next bonus. From bonus 9, still worth 1% of your final grade. However, there are a few extra steps that you're going to have to follow in a way to help me out here. And again, but it doesn't deviate too much from what you are doing. Let me show you this. On Centennial, I put together under week 10 the description of bonus 9. So bonus 9, again, not too different from what we did before. Bonus 9, you're going to go through videos 1 to 6 of chapter 12. It may seem a lot of videos, but they are shorter videos, okay? Even video number 1, there is no code. It's just a recap. So again, it's a bunch of short videos. I think that in total, maybe there is 20, 25 minutes in total of all of them. So you're going to go through that set of videos for next class. That's your bonus 9. After you are done with the videos and practice, you're going to take that quiz over there. It's a 6-question quiz, 1 answer only for each one of the questions, okay? Just to see what stayed, what did not. It's, again, very, very simple questions about what has been covered in those 6 videos. So there's that quiz. There's one caveat about that quiz. This is a Nearpod quiz. You usually enter your name in the quiz. However, this time around, from a privacy standpoint, I'm not going to ask you to enter your name, but I'm going to ask you to do this here. just to keep information anonymous, let me put it, no, I'm not gonna put it here, I'm gonna put it right here. So there are a few cards here, little cards, actually too small. I should have made this a little bit bigger, but that's fine. So you're gonna just pick one card, each one, keep that card. It just says student 1, student 2, student 3, but I don't know who will be answering that. You're gonna type in as your name, oh, I got student 10. Okay, great. So when you go and answer that quiz, enter student 10, because then I will be able to relate your answers here to a survey that I'm gonna ask you to perform next class. Just keep this little paper in mind, in hand, so when you answer the quiz, you put this code that is there. It's student 1, 2, 3. Again, just to be able to identify yourselves, and I don't know who you are that is answering. I don't know if this makes sense. I might be overcomplicating things. But again, take the quiz, use the student number. You just pick that. Again, try not to lose that. It's a very small piece of paper, so try not to lose that one. Bring that back next class, because, again, there will be a quick survey next class to answer my question there. Upload your questions, 3 questions to the bonus 9. Deadline is next week. Yet another extra step here is there's a checklist on the Centennial. Again, this is just a checkbox, okay? It's a checkbox that says, I have watched the videos, I've practiced the demonstrations, I've answered the quiz, I've uploaded the questions. Just a checkbox. Once you are done, just check. That will help the system to send you a reminder at the end of the week in case you have not done the checkbox. Just for that, okay? Again, I tried to make it simple, but maybe it's not that simple. Anyway, that's about it. Any questions about that? Again, you don't have to take the survey next week. It's optional. You do have to do this, however, to get your bonus. Okay? So it's and that will help me again to put some numbers together and see and help to answer my research question. Okay. The numbers are there. Again, as we go to a break, you may want to to pass by. Don't tell me the numbers, okay? Don't tell me your number. Don't do that, okay? That's it. Let me see if there's anything else here. Research question. Yeah, bonus, I just went through that. If you have any questions, again, I know I spoke a lot about this thing here. If it's confusing, if you are lost somehow, ask me, okay? Let's go for 10 minutes. And once we come back, we go through assignment 2, and the rest of you will go through the videos. Thank you.